Absolutely not. Those two words landed in the middle of Hargrove and Dunning's glass-walled boardroom, like something thrown from a great height. Every head at the table turned. Nobody spoke. The man who had said them, Mr. Vincent Dunning, 61 years old. Senior partner, third-generation money. The kind of man whose suits had their own postal code, leaned back in his leather chair and let the silence do its work. He had a gift for silence. He'd built a career on it. Across the table, a stack of legal documents sat untouched, and at the far end, standing because there weren't enough chairs and nobody had thought to bring one, was Nia Boateng-Clarke, 28 years old, associate counsel, 7 months into her position at the firm, and the only person in that room who actually understood what those documents said. She had found the error 3 days ago. A clerical mistake buried in the asset transfer clause of the Aldermoor acquisition. A single transposed digit in a routing number that, if left uncorrected before Friday's closing, would redirect $42 million into an account the firm no longer controlled. She had flagged it to her supervisor. Her supervisor had passed it upward, and now it had arrived here, in this room, at this table, with Vincent Dunning looking at her the way people look at something they wish would simply go away. "The clause is perfectly sound," he said, without looking at the documents. "I reviewed it myself." Nia kept her hands flat on the folder she was holding. She had practiced this. Not the words, the stillness. Her father had taught her that. "The room will try to rattle you," he used to say, "before it's even heard what you have to say. Don't give it the satisfaction." "With respect, Mr. Dunning," she said, "the clause itself is sound. The routing number attached to Schedule D is not. The last 4 digits were transposed during the November amendment. The corrected number should read 7741, not 7147. A few of the associates exchanged glances. One of them, a man named Jeffrey Crane who'd been at the firm for 11 years and had never once been wrong about anything, cleared his throat. "That amendment was reviewed by 3 senior partners," Jeffrey said. He said it the way someone closes a door. "I know," Nia said. "I've read all 3 sign-offs. None of them caught it." The room went very quiet. Vincent set down his pen. He looked at Nia for the first time since she'd entered the room. Really looked at her, the way a man looks at something that has surprised him and is deciding whether to be impressed or offended. He settled on offended. "And your father," he said pleasantly. "Did he teach you to find errors in work you weren't assigned to review?" There it was. Nia had been waiting for it. Not those words exactly, but something like them. The thing people reach for when the argument runs out. "Where did you come from? Who let you in? What gives you the right?" She didn't look away. "My father taught me to read contracts," she said. "He was a paralegal for 31 years. And yes, he's the one who first showed what a transposed routing number looks like in a wire transfer schedule. I was 12. He made me find it in a practice document before he'd let me have dessert." Nobody laughed. But one woman at the far left corner of the table. Diane Ashworth Peel, the firm's general counsel, who had said almost nothing since the meeting started, pressed her lips together in something that might have been a smile. Vincent was not smiling. "This firm," he said, "has managed complex acquisitions for 40 years without requiring." He paused, the pause doing the work he wouldn't let his words do. "Additional input from first-year associates." 7 months, Nia said. He blinked. "I beg your pardon? I'm not a first-year associate. I've been here 7 months. It's different." It was a small thing to say. It probably didn't matter. But her father had also taught her not to let people make her smaller than she was, not even in the details, not even the ones that seemed minor. "Especially those ones," he'd said. "That's where it starts." Vincent Dunning looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at Jeffrey Crane. Then he looked at the documents on the table. "The closing is in 63 hours, he said, more to the room than to her. "We don't have time for. The correction takes 4 minutes, Nia said. I timed it. A 1-page amendment to Schedule D, initialed by both parties, with a corrected wire transfer authorization issued through TD before end of business Thursday. I've already drafted the amendment. It's on page 6 of what I gave you. No one moved. Then Diane Ashworth Peel reached across the table and pulled the folder toward her. She opened it to page 6. She read it. The room watched her read it. Vincent Dunning watched her read it. Jeffrey Crane watched her read it. Nia stood at the end of the table and breathed evenly and tried not to think about how her hands were shaking slightly inside, her jacket pockets where no one could see them. Diane looked up. "It's correct," she said simply. "The routing number is wrong. This amendment fixes it." She set the folder down. "How did you find it?" Nia thought about how to answer that, honestly. "I was reviewing the November amendments for a different matter," she said. "The Aldermoor file was in the same binder. I wasn't looking for anything, but the number read wrong. It had the wrong rhythm. My father always said wire transfer numbers have a rhythm if you've read enough of them. You feel it before you see it." Diane nodded once, slowly. "Call in the Aldermoor partners," she said to Jeffrey, who was already starting to look like a man reassessing something. "We're filing the amendment today." Vincent Dunning said nothing for a long moment. He was a man who had been wrong before. Everyone had been wrong before. But he was a man who had not often been wrong in front of an audience, and he was not yet sure how to arrange his face. "The amendment still needs senior authorization," he said finally. "Then authorize it," Diane said. Not unkindly, just cleanly. He looked at the folder. He looked at Nia. And then Vincent Dunning, 61 years old, senior partner, third-generation money, picked up his pen and turned to page 6. What happened in the next 48 hours was not a movie. There was no slow clap. No one brought Nia flowers, or stopped "I'll pull away" to tell her she'd changed everything. The amendment was filed. The wire transfer authorization was reissued. The Aldermoor closing proceeded on Friday morning without incident, $42 million landing exactly where it was supposed to land. Nia ate lunch at her desk both days and answered emails and did not tell anyone what had happened in that boardroom, because that was not the kind of person she was. But some things travel in offices the way weather travels, not because anyone sends them, but because the air carries them. By Thursday afternoon, 3 people had asked her quietly about the routing number. By Friday, Jeffrey Crane had sent her a 2-line email that said only, "Good catch, genuinely." She read it twice and then filed it in a folder she labeled simply, "Keep." And on Friday evening, as people were gathering their coats and the Aldermoor partners were shaking hands in the reception area, Diane Ashworth Peel appeared in the doorway of Nia's office. She had her coat on. She was clearly on her way out. She stopped. "Your father," she said. "Is he still practicing?" Nia looked up from her screen. "He retired 4 years ago. Health reasons." Diane nodded. "Does he know what you do?" "He knows I'm a lawyer." Nia paused. "He doesn't know about this week yet." "Tell him," Diane said. "Tell him his 12-year-old found a 4-minute fix that saved a $42 million closing." She pulled her coat closed. "That's worth a phone call." She left. Nia sat in her office for another few minutes after that, not quite moving. Outside her window, downtown Toronto was doing what it always did at 6 o'clock on a Friday in November. Everyone hurrying, heads down, breath making small clouds in the cold air. The CN Tower was visible between buildings, lit, pale gold, against the dark. She picked up her phone. Her father answered on the second ring. She could hear the TV in the background. A hockey game. He always watched hockey on Fridays. "Nia girl," he said. He only called her that when she called unexpectedly and it made him happy. "Hi, Dad." She leaned back in her chair. "I have something to tell you. Remember that thing you made me do with the practice documents? The routing numbers?" A pause. She could almost hear him sitting up straighter. "The transpositions," I said. "The wire schedule practice. You were what, 12? 13? 12. You wouldn't give me any pie until I found it." He laughed, a real laugh, sudden and full. "It was pecan pie. You found it in 11 minutes and you were so angry about those 11 minutes. Dad." She took a breath. "I found one." The line went quiet. A real one? He said, a real one. $42 million. 63 hours before closing. The silence on the other end of the line was the kind that has weight to it. The kind that is not the absence of something, but the presence of something that hasn't become words yet. When her father spoke again, his voice was different, lower. Careful. The way a person is careful with something they don't want to break. Did they listen to you? Eventually, she said. Good. Another pause. Eventually is enough. Eventually is what matters. She could hear him exhale. Your grandmother used to say that. She said nobody listens at first, they listen after. Nia looked out the window at the gold light on the tower. You taught me how to find it, Dad. You found it, he said. I just made you practice. There's something worth saying here. About the room Nia stood in that Wednesday afternoon. There were 9 people at that table. Combined, they had more than 200 years of legal experience. 4 of them had their names on the building. 3 of them had argued cases before the Supreme Court of Canada. The youngest one, Jeffrey Crane, had been practicing law before Nia was born. Not one of them had found the error. Not because they were bad lawyers. They were exceptional lawyers. But exceptional people have blind spots, and one of the most common ones is the assumption that expertise flows in one direction. Downward. From the experienced to the new, from the senior to the junior, from the certain to the uncertain. Nia's father understood something that takes most people a lifetime to learn. Knowledge doesn't care who holds it. A 12-year-old finding a transposed digit in a practice document is the same act as a 28-year-old finding one in a $42 million acquisition. The number is either right or it isn't. The room doesn't change that. Vincent Dunning signed the amendment on page 6. That's the whole story in one line. Every version of this story ends the same way. Someone dismisses what they haven't bothered to understand, and eventually, always eventually, the document speaks for itself. The following Monday, Nia arrived at her office to find a single chair had been added to the Aldermoor file room's standing table. It was a real chair, a good one, with armrests, the kind everyone else at that table already had. Nobody mentioned it. Nobody needed to. She hung her coat, opened her laptop, pulled up the next file on her list. A municipal contract dispute in Mississauga, dense and complicated and full of places where things could quietly go wrong. And she started at the beginning, the way her father had taught her. Reading, slowly. Reading carefully. Listening for the numbers that don't have the right rhythm. Some rooms try to tell you what you're worth before you've even opened your mouth. The ones that last learn sooner or later to let the work answer instead. Nia Boateng-Clarke already knew that. Her father had made sure of it, one practice document at a time, with a slice of pecan pie waiting at the end.